So much media, so little time. Who keeps track of it all? That would be me. This is Bob Andelman, and this is the Mr. Media Interview, broadcast and recorded live on blogtalkradio.com from the new media and baseball capital of the world, St. Petersburg, Florida. I'm told that romance is the top genre in fiction with more than $1.47 billion. Oh, what the heck? Let's just call it $1.5 billion in sales just in 2007. And the average romance reader is a voracious reader who goes through 6 to 7 books per month. It's like popping candy, you know? Anyway, within the genre, there are many specializations, including tonight's topic, romance novels written by and for African-American readers. My guests include Michele Cameron, author of Never Say Never and the hot off the press Moments of Clarity. And also joining us is her editor at Genesis Press, Deborah Schumacher. Deborah is a published author herself. Her novel, The Air Between Us, was published earlier this year by HarperCollins. Deborah, Michele,
yes.
Welcome to Mr. Media.
Thank you very much for having us.
Delighted to have you here. Good. I'm happy that you're both here. So I'll let you jump in here. Let's get right to it. What the heck do black women really want?
We want happiness, love, peace, and happiness.
That seems easy enough. All right, thanks for tuning in, folks. We've solved everything.
Well, it's that in a nutshell. We want love, peace, and happiness.
All right.
We want security. We want good jobs. We want security for our families. We want to be challenged. That's what we want.
I think we want just basically, as Michele said, what everybody else wants.
Okay, now the
Someone
list
to
has
be a
gotten
partner for.
The list has gotten too long. I'm sorry. I've lost track. It's just too much. It's the same thing that everyone wants, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I just thought I'd throw that out to start out. Michele, let's start out with you. In your mind, what makes a romance novel particular to a black or African American audience?
I think that romance is a way to escape. I think that all races, especially African American women, we struggle. We go through the same things at work. We go through the same things with our family. And when you pick up a good novel, it's a good escape. I think what we want is the hero or the main character to be happy in the end, and we want the person who is not a good character to get it, to be punished, and that way we feel as if there's hope for everyone.
Is that any different than what a white reader would want, a white woman would want in a novel? Why is there a separation, I guess is what I'm wondering.
Well, I'm trying not to have a separation. In all my novels, I deal with not just romance, I deal with social issues that all races deal with. In Never Say Never, it's an interracial relationship, so that's black and white, or it can be Hispanic and white. It can be a mixture of anything. But I also deal with sexual harassment, and that happens. That shows no color. So I think I'm kind of like crossing over.
All right. Well, let me interrupt myself for a second because we've got a call already. Let's see if this is for one of you. Hi, do you have a question for Deborah or Michele? Hello. Hi, do you have a question? Okay.
If I could respond to your earlier question, the one that Michele just answered.
Of course. Go ahead, Deborah.
I think that in the beginning, when Genesis started, which was in 1992, there really was no inclusion of African Americans in the romance genre at that time. Since then, others have come. But I think that the whole point was to give African American women something that they could people that they could actually identify with, people who were like them, who were doing things that ordinary people were doing, but that were like them and that they could identify with. And that's how I think that it's not just African American, but there are Asian and Hispanic, just different groupings have begun.
Mm-hmm. I could
But
see that. Go ahead.
But the problems that we address are problems that are universal to everyone.
Okay. I mean, I can understand that. I ask questions sometimes. A lawyer asks questions that he knows the answer to. I mean, in Moments of Clarity, Michelle's new book, the protagonist is a woman who is a nurse at a hospital, and she's having a rough time with her existing relationship, and of course, a little bit of a stretch there. As soon as that relationship goes sour, then the next person she's with is a player for the New York Knicks. But okay, we'll let that go.
Well, that's the dream.
Well, there you go. I get that.
That's the dream.
It is escapist. It's escapist.
That's the fantasy for the women to escape. Okay.
Let's give them hope that everything will work out.
We've got another call here. Let's see how this one goes. Hi, do you have a question for Michelle or Deborah? Hello? Okay. Listen, folks, let's give out the phone number and explain that if you call into the phone number, I will see you on the board and I will invite you to speak. And we've got a couple calls out there. People there. Maybe there's a problem with the switchboard. It's hard for me to know. But we'd love to have you call in and ask a question, 646-595-3135, especially if you're listening to us live. If you're listening to us on a replay, don't call in. We're not here. Michelle, how did you get into this?
Well, I'm an English teacher. I've been teaching for 16 years, and I attended North Carolina A&T State University. And when I first went to college, my major was professional English. I wanted to be a writer. And my uncle, who taught at the school, called me to his office when he pulled up my major and told me I wasn't going to be able to make any money at that. So I was just wasting my time. So he said what I could do was pick up electives and get my certified in teaching and pursue writing in my spare time, which is what I did. Sometimes it's good to take advice of older people because they know what they're talking about. So once I started teaching, I just got so involved in it. You don't have a lot of spare time, and I really, really do enjoy my job. So I was satisfied. Well, a couple of years ago, because I felt I needed to make more money, the only way you really make any money as a teacher is when you're going to go into administration. And at that time, still now, I didn't want to go into administration. I enjoyed the classroom. I enjoyed the kids. I loved my job, but I just was struggling so much financially. I said, before I go back to school for my master's and get all these loans in order to have that and go into a job that I really wasn't all that gung-ho about, I was going to see if I could fulfill my fantasy and become a writer. And I started working out in my spare time. I had my summers off, and it took me a while, but I was just pleased and I was just tickled pink. My first novel was picked up by Genesis Press, Never Say Never. So what I'm doing is I teach during the day. I teach, and I'm very happy, but in my spare time I'm writing, and now I don't feel the need to go back to school. I feel as if my career is doing what I wanted to do, and I haven't had to leave my love for money. So that's how I got into it.
And what level do you teach at?
I teach 11th and 12th grade English at University High School in Orlando.
Oh, okay. Do your day job and your night job, so to speak, do they ever cross paths?
Well, yes. The kids are always on the internet. The kids found out. So I actually, because I feel as if being a role model, I don't like to lie to the kids. Actually, the first couple of times I just try to say, no, I'm not the only Michele Cameron in the world. But then I got to the point where I'm not ashamed of what I'm writing. So I told the kids, yes, it's me, it's a separate life, da-da-da. They're nothing but happy for me, nothing but supportive to me. I don't bring them in the classroom. I discussed it once, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. I would think it's easier being a high school English teacher and writing in this genre than if parents were like, if you had elementary school kids and you were writing this, it'd probably be more of an issue.
Yeah, when I first started teaching, I taught 7th and 8th grade, and one of the reasons I did move to the upper levels is because of the maturity level. And if I was writing If I was working in elementary school, I would use a pen name. But even with a pen name, people know who you are, you know.
Right.
But, yeah, I would never go down to elementary school unless I was, you know, well, they're doing cutbacks on teachers. Everybody knows that. I don't expect, because I've been teaching 17 years, to have any issues, but that would be the only way I would go to a lower level. But, you know, you'd be surprised at the stuff these high school kids are reading. You might not be surprised. They read things worse. Yeah, they would read things worse than my novels. Every novel that I write has social issues that I deal with. It's not bestiality. It's not anything. It's not pornography. There's a real story to it. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, I'm not ashamed of it, and they're proud of me. So, kind of makes my day.
So your new book just came in. Did you do you take it in and say, hey, do you show it around the faculty lounge at least?
No. I try to keep that separate. I really do. The only reason I even say anything to the kids is because they heard about it and I didn't want to continue to lie. But my friends at school, I don't do that because I don't want to make them feel pressured to buy it if it's not their genre. Every English teacher in the world wants to write a book. That's the first thing. So the fact that I've accomplished this, I'm not continually talking about it because like maybe 5 people have come to me already and say they're working on something. So I feel as if I've been an impetus for that, and I'm happy.
Very good. And I'm sure, the kids that do know, those that are interested in English and in writing are probably very inspired to think, hey, I actually know a professional writer. My own teacher gets her books published.
Well, they're bringing me poetry to read. And I read it.
Oh, God.
They're bringing me, they're dropping things on my desk. Miss Cameron, would you look at this? Miss Cameron, would you look at this? I always say something positive. But what I do tell them is before they send anything out to get a copy of the Writer's Market and to see who's reputable in there and to make a record of everything they send out. So that's what I'm getting.
Now, had you written a complete novel before Never Say Never?
No.
That was not published?
No. It's been a dream of mine, and the fact that the first one was picked up by Genesis Press, I just am so thankful to them that they saw something in my manuscript and worked with me, and they gave, it's been the best experience. I'm working on my 4th novel for them because I'm just so pleased. They're for new writers. They're for new writers, and they don't hassle you. And when it comes, I've heard horror stories about editing. I haven't had that. I've done 1 edit in each book so far, and that's a blessing because I am so busy during the day.
I'm kind of wondering if maybe I should be writing for this market. What do you think, Deborah? Could I, you think a bald-headed white Jewish guy in Florida could write for Genesis Press? You think I could,
Oh, absolutely. We've had male writers before, and we are bringing out a really tip-top one next year. And so, of course, you could.
Aha.
Send me your stuff.
All you have to do is have a good plot, and that's what
the plot is absolutely important. As Michele said, we really try to do books that are not just over the top as far as like glamorous people and glamorous women and this, that, and the other, but have real social issues attached to them. We've done full-figured women. We've done 2 books of people dealing with Alzheimer's in the family. We've done just issues that people are actually confronting right now in situations where they are falling in love at the same time. It's not, you don't fall in love in a vacuum. And in our books, you don't fall in love in a vacuum.
No, but it seemed to happen very quickly in moments of clarity. 1 minute, wasn't this like in a 24-hour period? Sasha, she has a fight with her boyfriend, and then she leaves in a huff, and then she's seen across the street by her friend Tiara. And she comes over and talks to them, and she meets the basketball player, or she meets him again, and then they get invited to a basketball game like the next day, and then before we know it, she's had a romantic moment, can we call it, with the basketball player, and then the next morning, I'm trying to keep up with it, and then the next morning, her girlfriend Tiara finds out that her husband's been arrested for soliciting a prostitute. It turns out to be a policewoman. And we're talking, this is a pretty active book. There's a lot of stuff happening to this poor woman. I was exhausted by, page 75.
But you left out something very important. In Never Say Never, she met Sexton Johnson at a party that Tiara gave, and it was like a get rid of your loser party. It was women that had really nice guys, but they weren't in love with them. They brought them to this party, and it was everybody got a chance to check out really nice guys that just wasn't right for them. And they spent the whole evening together, and she liked him then. But because of her moral values and she was dating someone, she never called him. You left that out.
I'm sorry. But it's interesting that you're serializing these characters. So, are books 3 and 4, are we seeing the same characters in your upcoming
No,
books?
you are not. No, the reason you are not seeing the same people because in Never Say Never, there's a strong family, black family with kids. I don't want to ruin that. I want to have a role model. This is what it's supposed to be for people, young people coming up, husband, wife, working together, raising a family. I didn't want to do anything with them. Then another main character is Marcus, is the brother of the main character. He works at the post office. He had been in the war. He had some problems with alcohol. He was recovering. I didn't want to mess with that. In moments of clarity, I had Sasha. She left Abdul. She gets with this other guy. I want to show that African-American families, once they find someone that they really, really love, they'll stick with them. So no, I'm in When Lightning Strikes, which is my third novel, is people no one has ever met before.
Deborah, I haven't forgotten that you're there. I want to do 2 pieces of business. I want to give out our phone number again. So if you've got a question for Michele Cameron, author of Moments of Clarity, and her editor, Deborah Schumacher, and who is also the author of The Air Between Us, give us a call, 646-595-3135. Now, I'm going to check in on the phone here. I'm giving you a second's warning here. The same folks who called in before who I couldn't connect with, I'm going to check on you again now and see if you have a question. So, hi, do you have a question for Michele or Deborah?
Yes, I do.
Oh, good. Please go ahead.
Okay. I probably just lost or didn't hear this, and I'm sure Michele gets this question a lot. But what part of your books are biographical? What parts are things that may have happened to you or somebody you know about, and what percentage is just stuff you make up?
Great question.
Yeah, that is a good question. I think in every novel that I've written, there is a piece of me, or it is someone that I have known or someone's story that I have heard about, or it's actually a very common story, because I want when people read my novel that they may say, is she writing about me? Or who's telling her my business? Or how does she know about this? I want them to feel connection. That's why I'm not writing the kind of novel where you get the main character, this rich, fine, handsome guy, says, I insist you marry me in 5 days, and he's not a pervert, Because
that would be a little strange.
Yeah, exactly. You're so filthy rich. You're so great. And you're fantastic in bed, mind you. But there's nothing wrong with you. So I'm totally away from that. Unfortunately, sexual harassment is prevalent in today's society. That I deal with in Never Say Never. I don't think it's as prevalent as it used to be because women speak up now more for themselves. In Never Say Never, the woman who was sexually harassed actually did have an affair with this guy, and she was a willing partner. But when she wanted to end it, he didn't want to take no for the answer. And that's where the sexual harassment comes in, because a lot of times people think once you've had a relationship with them that you can always be with them. And sometimes when something's over, it's over, and people need to understand that. And that cuts 2 ways. Not just male to female, also female to male. Because I teach school, as I said, and the girls are as aggressive as the males nowadays.
Oh, yes, it's an equal opportunity world out there. I was curious, though, about if it was in any way biographical. I wondered where you got your ideas, and it sounds like part of it is fantasy and part of it is real. But I was a little disappointed to hear you saying you weren't going to do any more in the Diamond family. I really kind of fell in love with them. I just liked them as a family. So, but I understand it. Yeah.
Well, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Finish your sentence, please.
Well, actually, just that I'm sure you could probably craft another family that I like, but I just really enjoyed Never Say Never. I love the book, actually.
Well, I have had people say to me that they see something going on with Marcus because Marcus doesn't have a woman. So it's not as if that would be an issue for me. Remember, Marcus has a son he never sees. So if I was ever to do something, it would be Marcus reuniting with his son. Then we have another woman, the woman who's going to, and it'd be blending a family because that's very hard. Most people have children from a previous relationship or they've been divorced and have other kids, and I've heard horror stories about how horrible these step-parents can be. So if I was to write another novel dealing with a family, it would be the woman that comes into Marcus Jr.'s life, dealing with him and the son.
Let me just interrupt and be clear, because I'm guessing that the caller has not yet seen Moments of Clarity. Am I right?
I pre-ordered Moments of Clarity after I read Never Say Never, but it hasn't arrived yet. So
you'll be pleased to see that Sasha and Sexton, they're the star of this book. So if you like those characters, those characters in the first book, you're going to love this one. It's a very fast read.
I've had people come to me who read Never Say Never says, who is she with in the second book? Because on my, internet blog and stuff, I'll say, Sasha, who you met in Never Say Never, is the main character in Moments of Clarity. And they're asking me ahead of time, who is she with? Well, I'm not going to tell you because that's the whole story.
Yeah, when you get to be a fan, you're a fan, I guess.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Well, no problem. Thank you.
Well, before you hang up, let me ask you a question. I kind of know that geographically you're in the same area as Michele. So, no, maybe I can't ask you this because maybe it gives away a plot detail because you haven't read the new book. But when you're asking about biographical details, I guess I was kind of wondering, Michele, if you had maybe had an experience with an Orlando Magic player.
God.
I wish. No, I'm only kidding.
I want to know that.
No, you know what? When they were, I'll say, I don't want to be when they were hot, they used to come out to when I used to hang out more, they would be in the club. There were so many women all over them. I was just I've never been aggressive. I guess I'm still old-fashioned because I've heard about so many nice women that got really nice husbands because I'm single. Because they got these really nice guys, they ask them out first. That is just not me. I still am stuck in that old mode. I think men are more predators. I don't want to use that word because it sounds kind of a bad connotation. But I still think if a man's interested, they'll ask you. So I've never really approached. And you could not get near those guys. Trust me. There'd be women all over them. So, no, I never had that pleasure.
All right. Well, I had to ask.
Yeah. Well, thank you for answering my questions. I look forward to your future novels, okay?
Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks for calling.
No problem. Bye-bye now.
Bye. So we've got a line free if you want to give us a call, 646-595-3135. Deborah, I want to bring you back into the conversation. Tell me a little bit about Genesis Press. I was very interested in, I think it's brilliant, frankly, like at the end of the new book, Michele's new book, and I'm guessing this is in all the copies, if this isn't a press copy, but it lists all the titles, and you cross-market, and you there's the club and the book club, and it just seems very ingenious, and I'm wondering what you can tell us about the press.
The press was founded by Wilbur Colomb in 1992 because his wife was a very, very involved, loved reading romance, and as I said before, couldn't find any romances that at that time that really pertained to African Americans, ones that she says that she could identify with, and I think we can all identify with that. And so, with that thought in mind, they started the press. She's a judge, a very intelligent woman, a lawyer, and then became a judge. And the two of them started the press together to fulfill fulfill this need in her and in other African American women who could not find books that they could actually identify with the people. And from that, we've grown. We do our Love Spectrum books. We mainly are concentrated in African American romance, but we have interracial romance. We're starting another line of just contemporary fiction, I think, in 2010, which is where we're putting our list together now. And we've been very happy. I think we are the largest African-American publisher in the world right now.
And they're very easy to work for. They are very easy to work for. I mean, if there's someone who wants to be published, they should go on the Internet, see what their guidelines are, and send it in, because they look at everything that comes through. They give you the time. It doesn't go into a stack, and you're just waiting and listening, and they get back to you. I mean, if it was not for Genesis Press, it's so funny, because what I do is when I send out 20 manuscripts at once when I send them out, and when I started getting them back, because it would be something like, we want more sex, and I'm thinking to myself, more sex, because that's not what my main goal is. Obviously, really, you have to have.
Michelle, my response would be, well, so do I. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, then more sex in the book. Or, I would be like, well, but it's not all about people jumping in and out of bed. I want a storyline. And that's what their books have. If you pick up Never Say Never, it deals with sexual harassment. It also deals with the down low man. There's a man who was in a relationship. He was married, and he wasn't happy, and he's finding himself. He realizes that he's gay, and his family has a hard time recognizing that. And I think that's more and more common than it used to be. People are just saying, I need to try to be happy. And in moments of clarity, the main character was in foster care. And what I'm trying to show is, I do think, because I've dealt with children for so long and so many different personalities, that people are a product of their environment. And the reason why, to kind of add more information to what you said earlier, the reason why Sexton really, really wants Sasha is because the way he was raised by his adopted parents when he got out of foster care, Sasha has a lot of the same qualities because of her family background. And he knew from the moment he saw her that she was the type of woman that would be a good wife and a good mother, and he pursued her. I do believe a lot of times men actually want a woman that has good qualities like their own mother. And from the moment he saw her, he wanted her. And that is why.
I'm sorry, Sid. I didn't mean to interrupt you. We at Genesis really, I think part of my own dedication to the job is from the fact that I am a writer myself. And I really love the story, and I love to nurture the career of these African American women, to really start women on their careers like Michele. Michele was one of my first ones that I found. But we've got others, too, who you can really see can tell a story, and it's wonderful to be able to give them this opportunity to do it. And I just try to encourage them as much as I've been encouraged by my own editor, who is just such a model to me of what an editor should be. And to give these women the opportunity to tell the stories that they can tell. And
one thing that even though my main characters are African Americans, I do have other races in my novels. But at the school where I teach, there's 230 teachers, and there's 14 African Americans. So you see what the ratio is. The white women that have bought my book, when they come questioning me about it, they don't see color. They see issues. And that is what I want to do. I guess I'm really being facetious. What Berry Gordy wanted to do with the Temptations. Everybody enjoyed the music. It didn't matter. And that's really what I would like to do.
And that's what we want to do at Genesis as well.
All right. We've got another call, and I want to say we had someone else call a minute ago, and I was just about to put you on. Sometimes it takes a minute if you're calling in. Bear with us. We will get you all on. So let's go to this call. Hi, did you have a question for Michele or Deborah?
Hello?
Hi.
Hi. My name is Judy Jacobson, and I had a question for Ms. Cameron.
Okay, go right ahead.
Yes, I'm listening.
Ms. Cameron, I was wondering where you came up with your ideas for your book. Well, I read Never Say Never and really enjoyed it, and I was just curious how you came up with your ideas or where you get them from.
Well, actually, first of all, it's usually a social issue that I want to shed light, and then I build the characters around that to make it kind of suit the social issue. And my third novel that's coming out, When Lightning Strikes, that I think I really love, and Deborah, my editor, really likes it also.
Yeah.
It's coming out in August 2009.
Okay.
The reason, where that came, my mom and dad are originally from Lake City, South Carolina, and that is also the birthplace of Ron McNair, the astronaut that was killed in the Challenger.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, he used to play in my mom's backyard when he was a little boy. He used to climb on my grandmother's trees. So I talked about this small town where they had these great things that happened during the Civil Rights era. I also spotlight B.B. Delane's father, Reverend Delane, because they went to school with B.B. Delane. My parents did. And my parents always tell me about things that happened when they were growing up. Mr. Delane, Reverend Delane, actually in Somerton, he was one of the people that first started Brown vs. Board because he wanted to try to get a school bus for the African-American children to ride to school instead of walking 12 miles. And they were denied that. So then they got in touch with Thurgood Marshall. He came down and met with them. And other people got on board, and that's when they petitioned in order to have segregation. A lot of people don't know that. And B.B. Delane and his family, they bombed his property. And my mom remembers that they bombed and they tore down the church. First of all, he lived in Somerton. They burned their house down. They moved to Lake City, and they tried to sign people up for the NAACP. And then when the Brown vs. Board education went through, and it was not separate but equal anymore, they bombed their church. So my mom knows these people, and they were telling me about it and stuff like that. So on my third novel, I decided to shed light to that. I actually talked to Mr. Delane. And I said, do you mind me using your father's name? Do you mind me using your name? Because right now they have a nonprofit organization where they're really economically depressed over in Somerton. And they have kids with, they're trying to get money for computers, and they do after-school tutoring in math and reading. And I told him if he let me, use his name, which he was thrilled. And they actually have this Atlanta History had they had a monument going there. They had where you would go as a visit there, and it's going all over the country. But I told him I donate money from proceeds from When Lightning Strikes once I, get some of my royalties from that. So it's always something that's relevant. At least that's what I want to do.
Yes. Well, I appreciate you answering my question, and I really enjoy your writing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for the call. We appreciate it. We've got another call for you. Hi, do you have a question? Hi, do you have a question for Michele or Deborah?
No, I'm just kind of listening in. Hi, Bob.
Hi.
It's Shemaine. How are you?
Oh, hey, Shemaine. Okay. That's fine.
I'm talking.
We'll put you back on hold, and you go right ahead and listen. We appreciate having you here.
Thank you.
Okay. Deborah, we were talking a little bit about Genesis. I was going to ask you, what are the elements of a good story for you? What are you looking for?
The first thing I'm looking for, I think, is the drama in the story, the social issue, I would say, that makes the story compelling. The second thing I'm looking for always are good characters. that will move that story forward and that have some sort of transformative experience in their life that not only transforms them but other people, that the love issue is transformative for them, that when this book ends, you see that this person has grown in some way because of this experience and because they've actually moved through the experience. I don't like characters that are sort of on the sideline saying, what am I supposed to do next, sort of, and waiting for someone else to sort of decide their lives. My characters are pretty decisive on their own, as I think Michele will tell you.
Oh, yes.
I think there's been a lot of talk here about empowerment and social issues, but these are still romance novels, and there's some pretty interesting, sexuality going on. I'm trying to be a little delicate here, but, I mean, Moments of Clarity, this is a pretty sexy little book.
Thank you. I try. I mean, please.
Well, Deborah, let me ask you about that. I mean, how far can your authors go with that?
It depends really on the book. Some are milder than others. I think that the most important thing for me is that the sexuality actually fits inside the book, that you could actually see it happening and it's not gratuitous. It actually moves the plot along. It moves the relationship along. It's not just something that happens and, just as titillation.
Mm-hmm.
There's no basic guideline. Pardon me?
Is there a formula for,
No, I was just going to say it depends on each book. We have some books that are very, very mild. Some books that are, a little bit richer in that area, we can say. But it depends on the book, and it depends also on the style of the author. And I can't say that just off the top that the ones that are more sexual sell better than ones that are not. It depends on the story, actually, and how the sexuality is used in the story.
I was actually surprised, some of the stuff that was going on here. I thought the one thing, in Moments of Clarity, and it's right on the inside flat, but there's a conversation between Sasha and Sexton where they pull up to her place, and he says, I just want to know if you know what you're doing. And he stared deeply into her eyes, and she said, what do you mean? Well, how much did you have to drink today? Just enough, she replied. Enough for what? He examined her closely in the dark interior of the car. Enough for me to forget my 3-date rule. I mean, there's some humor there, too.
Yes.
Let me remind everybody what our phone number is. We've had some good activity with the phones. If you'd like to ask a question of Michele Cameron, author of Moments of Clarity and Never Say Never, as well as Deborah Schumacher, her editor, and who is herself an author of The Air Between Us, give us a call, 646-595-3135. Deborah, do you ever have to reject one of these books because they're too hot?
Let me see. Have I ever rejected one? Because I have got people, if I thought that it was gratuitous, to maybe tone it down a little bit. I would never reject the book for that reason, because you can always, if the story's good, the characters are good, and I think that there's interest, then you can always, you work with the author. A book doesn't just show up at the door and it's perfect. It shows up and you work with it. Is that not true, Michele?
Yes. When I'm doing the sex scenes, I always make sure it's consensual. I don't like this idea of she really doesn't want him, but it's just so good to her that in the end she's glad he did. I think that really
I don't like that
tone,
either.
Because it gives people the wrong idea, and I think it's pretty unrealistic. But
it's very unrealistic. We don't.
Yeah, I try to come up with a variety, and actually, it's harder to write the sex scenes than anything else to me. It really is, as a writer, because I don't want to keep writing the same exact thing. So what you do is you put them in different places. But you can't have people having sex outside all the time because there is a law against it. I do find it's harder to write the sex than anything else. The social issues, the plot, and the foreshadowing, it's great. Then I'm like, well, I know this is a romance. I need to have these people have some sex, or the readers are going to be disappointed. That's more it's the way it is for me. Mm-hmm.
So do you? Do you block it out? Do you get with somebody and say, okay, listen, here's what I'm thinking is going to happen in this scene. So let's go through this ourselves. So
no,
when I write it out,
I don't do any of that. But what I do, I do not discuss. No, I do not discuss any of that. What I do is I give my manuscript to my parents before I send it in. Are you embarrassed? No. Yes, I do, because I care about what they think. I let them read my manuscript before I send it out. Are you embarrassed? Are you okay with this? And they are. If it was anybody else's child now, they would talk about them. But for me, I just want you to be happy, Michele.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
all
I do.
Right,
it's important to me what they think, my parents, anyhow.
All right. Well, this changes my view of the book a little bit, knowing that it's gone through the mom and dad filter. I don't know. I don't know. The scene early on here where Sasha catches Pandora and Abdul kind of cheating on her. I don't know. I don't think I could have submitted that to my parents. That's all I'm saying.
Well, what do you think of, but you do realize it wasn't that graphic. It actually wasn't. You got the idea. At least I think you got the idea. I got the idea
pretty clear, yeah.
Let me ask you something. What did you think of the name Pandora for that?
Oh, I just thought it opened up a world of trouble.
There you go. That's what I meant. That's what a play on words. That's what I thought. And then later on, what the sisters were saying about the name, because I think it's, as a teacher, I see all kinds of names. And I tell my students, watch what you name your kids because you're marking them,
I coach girls soccer at middle school level at the moment, and it's a struggle to be able to keep track of the names. It's very complicated.
Yes.
Hey, we've got another call here for you guys. Let's see what we've got. Hi, do you have a question for Michele or Deborah?
Yeah, my question is to Michele.
Okay.
I would like to know what made her use Lake City, South Carolina, in her book. I'm from Carolina.
Okay, well, evidently you didn't hear earlier when I said my parents are from Lake City, South Carolina. They were moved to Connecticut when I was a child, but my parents went to school in Lake City, South Carolina, and B.B. Delane, they went to school with him, and his father was very instrumental in getting the civil rights movement going. So the reason why I use that is kind of like because I always wanted to do something that was close to my parents, made them remember the struggle, how they've accomplished things, how far they've come, how successful they are, and just to give them a memory as long as I have them with me.
That's good. You go back to Carolina?
I go there often. I go there. I still have a lot of relatives there. I go there quite often, at least once a year. We have property there that my grandmother was a minister in Hemingway for 50 years. So we do go there quite often. Even though she's gone, I have relatives. So I go to Lake City. I know Lake City very, very well.
Good. Thank you very much, Michele, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling. I should ask both of you, and I think, Michele, you mentioned, and Deborah, I don't know if you do. Do you have a website that you want to tell people about, either of you?
Yeah, I have a website. It's www.michelecameronblog.com, and I have one L in Michele. There actually is another Michele Cameron author. She has two L's. But it's www.michelecameronblog.com, and you could see my information, my bio. I also have 2 book signings in Greensboro, North Carolina next week. My college homecoming, I'm an Aggie. So I'm going to be at the bookstore that Friday night, and the night before that, from 7 to 9, I'm going to be at the Barnes & Noble and Friendly Shopping Center. So if anybody wants to stop by.
All right. And can readers, can they contact you or send you email?
Yes.
Through that site?
You can. Yes, I also have a MySpace, but if you go to my website, you can get in contact with me through there.
Okay.
And I answer
and
things.
Deborah, do you have a site of any kind for your work?
I don't have one yet, though. I think when it comes out in paperback, they want me to do it. It's coming out in trade paperback in next year, and so by then I will. But Genesis has a website where we have all our great authors like Michelle, like Shemaine Canton, Michelle Sudler. We have Crystal Hubbard, just great, great writers, and we invite everybody to come to www.genesis-press.com to find out about all our books.
And, Michelle, we were talking a minute ago about the sex scenes, and I promise this will be the last thing I'll ask about this.
Okay.
But did you surprise yourself the first time you had to sit down and write one of those? And I'll tell you what I'm thinking here. I've got a friend who once asked me, and I haven't written much of that, but he said, do you think that someone writing, like a sex scene, do they think it's successful if it turns them on?
You really want me to answer that? Yeah, I can answer that. No, I can really answer that.
Okay.
I'm going to be very, very honest. The way I write a sex scene is really what I think women want to happen to them in bed, or what I'm talking about when you're really in love with someone, when you feel close to someone, when you're passionate. When I write a sex scene when the people are together in love, I think that's really how they want to click. And that's the way I write it. Does that answer your question, or is it not?
No, it does. It does indeed. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I do.
Okay. And Deborah, let me come back to you. I'm at a little disadvantage because I do not have a copy of The Air Between Us, but maybe
I'll send you one.
Okay. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the book and kind of what inspired it?
The book is about. It actually is taken from a fact that happened to my father, who was a surgeon. My brother told me stories about my father when in the 1950s, after he had graduated from medical school, just different things that had happened to him, and one particular thing. And I remember thinking about it for a long time and putting the book, but didn't know I had lived in Italy for quite a long time and had written other books, historical romances, as a matter of fact. And then when I moved to Mississippi which is where Genesis is, it gave me the impetus and the actual place to write this book about these two doctors, one who's black and one who's white, during the civil rights era in the 1960s, because I was so just a little bit surprised that the Mississippi I thought was going to be here was not the Mississippi that was actually here. And so this became the basis for that book. Okay. And it is about, as I say, about these two doctors and their families during this important time.
So it's more historical.
Yes, I guess it is historical, though actually I grew up in part of the civil rights era, so wow. To think of myself as historical, but I guess it is.
Listen, historical, always better than hysterical.
Well, I guess, yes, that's true. But I've been I've been fortunate with the book. I had a wonderful editor and a wonderful publishing house. It's doing well, so I'm happy.
Well, not many editors. Now, I've written a number of books, and not many editors that I've dealt with actually have the experience of writing novels themselves. And I wondered, how does that change your perspective on dealing with authors?
Well, let me see. I'm not really, because I'm sympathetic with them, I think. I mean, Michelle's the one who could actually tell how I am as an editor. But I think it makes me more sympathetic, and I understand the process more. But on the other hand, as I say, my own editor has never written a book and absolutely understands the process. So I don't know. I think Michelle could actually answer that a little better because she's the one who works with me.
Well, I mean, I've only had to do one edit on the two books that I've had so far. I know that is the ideal situation. It doesn't always work like that. They haven't asked me to change the plot. Whenever anything's changed, when I look at it, it's something that makes sense to me. Like I had written in the first novel that her hair hung down to her waist, and the editor said, well, maybe you should shorten her hair because that's hard, So that was nothing to me. That didn't even matter. She was a secondary character. It wasn't like she was Rapunzel or anything. So it didn't matter. But it makes more, they see things that you don't see. Because I have a tendency to write the way I talk, and that's not always proper. So right. I thank God I would never submit a book without an editor because I don't know everything about everything. And they're there to help you.
The editor, I think, looks at the book and sees the basis of it and tries to bring that basis out more. So you get rid of a lot of extraneous things, a lot of words, a lot of like hair. For instance, I had one really good book where, and one of my favorite authors too, although I love all of them, but this was a really good one where she had a high school teacher, and she actually is a high school teacher, but this particular high school teacher was going every day to school in Prada shoes, and you think, this is really not that realistic. But she's not getting, even though she is a teacher herself, she's not getting this. And so it just is helpful like that. It's to like bring out the real basis of the story so that you don't get lost in like a detail of shoes that are not going to be generally worn in school, that you don't go out of the sort of dream of the story. And I think that that's what an editor does, is keep you right there in the story and get rid of anything extraneous that's going to take you out of the dream of the story.
Let me ask you, we've just got a couple minutes left. As we're recording this, we're about a month out from the presidential election. I'm kind of curious if either of you think, if Barack Obama wins as president, does that change the focus at all on what you do, or open up the market for what you do? Does it change pop culture at all? If an African American man becomes president of the United States?
I think if I could I think that it already has done a lot in that direction to show people in the wider culture just what an African American family is and can be. That it's sort of essentially the same sort of family that everyone else has, as we were discussing earlier. But I also think, importantly, that it has shown African Americans just what we can do, that it's no longer 40 years ago, where my book is set, but that a great deal has changed and can continue to change in culture.
Well, because I deal with a lot of 17 and 18-year-olds, they don't look at when they're talking or when they're discussing this, because it comes up all the time. They don't even really mention the fact that he's African American. They really don't. Things have changed with the only time you hear the negativity is probably what they get from their parents. But usually what I'm seeing from the younger generation, they're blending more because they haven't been stung like by things that happened maybe 40 or 50 years ago, when they don't know and they just want to move on. I'm not seeing them talking about the fact that he's African American. Now maybe the students that do not want him because he is black, maybe they're just silent about it, but I'm not getting that vibe from them. They just want to be able to go to college, not lose their shirt by getting loans, and anyone who will do it for them, whoever convinces them that that's the way to go, that's what they're doing. That's what they want to do. They're actually voting. I have seniors, and they're ready, Now, who they're all voting for, I've got 2 kids, especially my first period class, they're definitely voting for McCain. I respect that. As for me, I'm voting for Barack. I have no problem with saying it. And it's not because he's an African American. I think he's the best. But that's my opinion. Right. And I don't infringe on other people's opinion. on that. I want them to just, whatever happens, if your guy wins and they mess up, I don't want to hear the complaints.
Right. Well, listen, you guys have been, you ladies have been, you women, authors. I don't know what I'm talking about. You've been wonderful guests. Folks, you can learn more about Genesis Press's romance novels for African Americans and all kinds of people. It's not just African Americans, as we've learned in the last hour. Online at www.genesis-press.com. It's Genesis, GENESIS-press, PRESS.com. And you can find more about Michele Cameron at MichelleCameronblog.com, and Michelle has one L. This Michelle has one L. You can order each of these ladies' books. Michele Cameron's latest book, Moments of Clarity, or her first book, Never Say Never, or Deborah Schumacher's The Air Between Us. There are great bookstores everywhere. You can also order them at Amazon.com or MrMedia.com. And ladies, thank you both very much. It was a very entertaining hour, and it seemed to have gone by very quickly.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you.
This has been great. I mean, wow, I called. Everybody says, hey, I'm going to be on the show. They're listening, but I don't think they called in because they already know the answers.
All right. Well, listen, continued luck to both of you, and maybe we'll have you back again sometime soon.
Thank you. That was great.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And, of course, folks, for dozens more celebrity and media newsmaker interviews, surf over to our main website, www.mrmedia.com. That's where you can listen to my previous conversations with the creators, stars, and writers and producers of The Cleaner, Star Wars, The Clone Wars, SpongeBob SquarePants, Heroes, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Army Wives, 24, The Big Bang Theory, Bad Santa, Tell Me You Love Me, The Dark Knight, Vince Baby Blues, and on and on and on. And please think about writing an online review of Mr. Media, casting a vote for Mr. Media, or marking Mr. Media as one of your favorites, whether you listen on Blog Talk Radio, DigitalJournal.com, Podcast Pickle, Vox, Folio, Mediafly, Podfeed.net, Blueberry, Zencast, Audio, the Kindle Reader, or iTunes. If you've got an idea for a guest, email me directly at bob@andelman, ANDELMAN.com. Thanks so much for listening today. I always appreciate when you take a little bit of your time out and spend a little of your day with us.